Somebody already went and spent the hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads. Somebody already went and spent the years and years of organic marketing and advertising doing that, the content to where a couple pieces go viral, and then they're building a relationship with their audience over time. Somebody already did that for you. You don't need to do that. The rivers exist. All you got to do is take your bucket and dip into these other rivers. So leverage other people's audiences.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through CFO, accounting, and tax services. Now, I told y'all we're in season two. And you got to go get some big names. Season one was great. We had big names, but we wanted to do it even bigger. We wanted to focus on people that have a $1 million agency, are super close to reaching, or have already clearly, easily surpassed it in multiple businesses. So I had to, keep connecting with people. And it was somebody that actually reached out to me. I guess we were already Facebook friends. You know how the Facebook streets work. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you guys Kyle Rodgers. Now, Kyle, tell the people name of the company, who you help, and then we'll jump into it. And I'm going to be taking notes right here per usual.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me here, man. I'm super stoked, and I'm excited to give you guys something that you can implement. My goal here is to solve your lead generation problems forever, with just a couple of simple things that you can implement. But my name's Kyle Rodgers, owner and CEO of Scale Sales Teams, and who I help is experts, speakers, course creators, small agencies, and a lot of people just in the online expert space, and I help them scale to 7 figures using 100% commission-only salespeople without spending a dime on ads.
Okay, there you go. Now, you got to tell us a little bit of your journey. How did you even come up with this idea? Because we all know sales is hard. Just let me rephrase that, because some people say sales is easy. Sales is probably one of the top 3 most challenging things to learn / perfect as you're starting a business. So how did you get in the sales side?
Yeah, appreciate you asking that. So I've been in direct sales for 13, 14 years now. And the beginning, the origins, the school of hard knocks. I said literally knocking on doors. Man, that's what I did for years. I was with DirecTV for 7 years and quickly rose through the ranks to number 7 top salesperson in the nation for them, selling satellite TV on people's doorsteps. And I tell you that I learned more about sales during that time of my life than I have since, even being part of masterminds, being part of high-level coaching programs, mentors, all kinds of crazy stuff. Nothing compares to what I learned just grinding on the streets. It was really, I always call it the Navy SEALs of sales. Those guys are good. In order to be able to take somebody who's barely peeking through their door, or maybe they're talking to you through the wall, and they're looking at you as an enemy. They don't know who you are. They know you're probably trying to sell something, and they just don't want to have it. And all of a sudden, you're able to shift their energy and make a micro relationship to where a couple minutes later, they're in cooking you dinner and giving you a $100 tip just for talking to them. So that's where I really cut my teeth on this. And then I was able to race through the ranks. I won a plaque for being number 7 top salesperson in the nation. And I went on a cruise with my wife because we won the cruise. And it was incredible. And I started to get this love of travel from that cruise. And I was watching a YouTuber that did this travel full time. And I'm like, I want to do that, but I can't do that doing door to door. Plus, I wasn't fulfilled doing door to door. I would crush it. I would do pretty well. Door to door people can make pretty good money. But the thing is it wasn't fulfilling. I knew that I was a door to door salesman and I needed more. I needed something that was going to build a legacy. And that's what you talk about here on this show, is building legacy, building lasting change, changing lives and scaling your impact everywhere. And that's what lights me up. That's what makes me passionate. That's why you guys see me in my RV right now. It's because I travel full time. all over the world with my wife and 2 kids while running my business remotely.
Okay, there was a lot right there. We're gonna dig into this because I think a lot of people love to travel. Within reason, of course. Like there's that, but I think what's super interesting here is how you noticed very quickly, like, yeah, I'm making good money, but that's not the end all be all. This is not what I want. So staying in touch with who you were as a person was super important. So now I want to go into this because you just said lately you are in an RV, traveling all the time, wife and 2 kids, but you are running this successful business. Tell us, how are you having to balance that? Because an RV is only so big, right? It's not like a 2 or 3 level house where, like, oh, y'all getting on my nerve. I'm gonna go in my office, shut the door, and y'all go upstairs and play and all. Like, you don't have that option. So how are
Yeah.
you able to still maintain focus, keep growing the business, keep coaching other people, all while doing this while traveling or somebody's driving?
Man, so I don't drive a ton. We'll drive for 3, 4 hours at a time, and then we'll stay in a place for weeks. Like we'll be there 3, 6 weeks because we get that full immersion. We're trying the food, we're meeting the people, we're making connections, we're going on excursions. This is a Class A motorhome. It's 31 feet. It's decent size for an RV. It's not big though, and it's pretty small for a 4-person family. But we always say small house, big backyard. So we tow a Jeep Rubicon on the back of it, which I flat tow. So I can just drive right up, put it in park, and then take the tow bar out, connect the tow bar. It takes me about 5 minutes, and then we're able to tow the Jeep. So we got a dolly vehicle, and that they call it like the dinghy, right? Like if you're on a ship, that's your dinghy. And for me, that's like my mobile office because a lot of times I'm not here in the RV. My wife and kids are out shopping right now, but a lot of times I'm sitting inside the Jeep if I'm doing interviews and podcasts and things like that. And if I'm not on Zoom or I'm not on Riverside, then I'm walking, man. I hike probably 8 miles per day while I'm just grinding on the phone and just exploring.
Okay, okay. I like this. So keeping the physical health is a good priority. Now you say you're here for 3 to 6 months. So like managing meetings and calendars and how are you able to do that? Because if they weren't shopping, right, technically they're on the other side of the vehicle, right? Which means you can hear them, see them, they're calling your name. How does that work?
Yeah, yeah, I could high five them right there if they were right there. So, like I said, I hike all day long because I always dreaded the cubicle lifestyle. After I did my stint in door to door, I went and worked for an ad agency doing outbound cold calls to real estate agents, selling ad services to real estate agents. Again, I came in, I was brand new, top rep with them immediately, and I was crushing it with them. I was making money with them too, but I was in this box. I was in this cubicle and I was staring at these walls, on either side of me and in front of me. And I tried to do it up a little bit, put some pictures up there, make it personalized. But man, that's the closest thing that you can get to jail without actually being in jail. So I wanted out of that, and now the fact that I get to go hike, I get to walk oceanside or walk across a river or go hike up a mountain while I'm working. That's something special. Like to me, I would take a pay cut and make a third of the amount of money to just be able to do that. Luckily, I didn't have to take a pay cut, and I actually exploded my income. But what's more important about exploding income is that doesn't mean anything. It's just a point system to show how many lives that you're impacting.
I like that. All right, so then let's talk about boundaries, right? Because a lot of people, especially after the pandemic, are working from home, have that home office. So clearly you're showing that, hey, I can work for this amount of time. And then, of course, we're out exploring, tasting the food in the city, etc., and doing the driving. Name 2 or 3 solid boundaries that you have in place that really help you to lock in when necessary and then be locked in with the family when necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So for one, there has to be balance. And you mentioned the word boundaries, and I love that word. So I time block everything. And this is how I was able to scale. I was on stage with Russell Brunson. I had my golden record for getting the 2 Comma Club Award. We did 2.5 million in 3 years. And I've worked less during that time than I ever have in the past. And the way that I do that is leverage. Being a CEO is all about leverage, leveraging other people's work, leveraging other people's audiences, leading from a high-level strategy. And if you can look at this like 4D chess, if you're playing 4D chess, you can step onto the chessboard and be one of the pieces if you want, but you probably shouldn't. You need to remain at the high-level view and be moving the pieces instead of becoming the pieces, becoming the pawns, becoming the knights. And these are the people and your network within your company.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you bought it up. Let's go there. So now we've gone from top 7 in the nation, going door to door. Now we go to the ad agency where we don't have to do as much door to door, but we still at the top very quickly. And now we've moved on to having our own company to where you get a 2 Comma Club Award, which for those of you who don't know, which everybody who watches this should, that's basically you've done crazy numbers in a short amount of time through this specific technology and you're getting recognized for it. So tell us a little bit about that journey, because to go from I'm selling for everybody else versus now I'm selling for myself and to hit 2.5 within 3 years, that's not like something everybody does. It's not like super easy. So kind of tell us and fill us in about how that journey was transitioning from working for somebody else to now doing that same thing for yourself.
Yeah. So the expertise started when I was in door to door, because as I rose through the ranks, they developed me into a manager. I was a recruiter and a manager to where I would recruit commission-only salespeople. I'd train them and manage them and get them results. I'd draw up the turf. I'd have a map open and give them a route, and they'd go work. And I sold them on this dream, on this opportunity of doing door-to-door. It sucks. Nobody wants to do door-to-door. That's rough work. But I was able to get people bought in and just amped and fully invested into that work. And I got really good at that. And unfortunately, I did not take that with me right away when I started my own business. For some reason, didn't occur to me. I wanted to be the salesperson at first. So what that meant was that I was on all the closing calls. I was enrolling people. I was doing some appointment setting. And my wife was my appointment setter as well. So she was working full time back then. And right when we figured it out, I started hitting Facebook groups and got a couple good sales immediately. And I was making more than what I was doing before. And I was like, whoa, we figured this out. We did it. We cracked the code. Now, as long as I have an internet connection, I can go anywhere in the world and make money. I'm like, let's go, Maddie. My wife's name is Maddie. And I'm like, let's go. Let's take our 10-year plan of traveling the world and let's collapse time and make it happen now. So we sold everything we had. We were in a house at the time near Portland, Oregon. We sold everything. We fit the rest of what we had into backpacks. And then we flew across to Europe. We flew into Rome. And I remember flying in and seeing all these clay rooftops and the landscape and just thinking of how much different it is than the United States and how cool it is to be in this ancient city. And it's interesting when you're flying across over there to Europe, especially as the sun's going down in the U.S., it's almost like you chase the sun around the globe because the sun dips down the horizon just a tad and then it comes back up as you're going on the other side. So tell that to the flat earthers, right? chase the sun. The air's not flat. But, we landed in Rome. It was super, super amazing to be there, way different. Then we went up to Florence, and then we were in Milan, and then we were in Venice. Venice, all the canals. There's no cars. It's just canals and boats. And then over in Croatia. Croatia is cool because these are ancient cities, too. They got castle walls in one city that we were in. So it just felt very medieval. That's where they shot Game of Thrones as well. So that was super cool to see all that. And then we went from there to Prague. And Prague is all Gothic, very, very dark, but still medieval and ancient. So that was cool to see that and the architecture that they had there, drinking the mulled wine, You know, they sit there in these big copper vats and then these big ladles. They're sitting there mixing them on the street, and you can walk by and you smell the wine and the cinnamon and the oranges, and you get them for $1. You fill your cup for $1. Just go around drinking those. And then we went from there to France. We were in Saint Tropez, the southern coast of France, and we were up in Paris. Spent a whole day in the Eiffel Tower. And it was amazing on Instagram. It was an amazing experience, don't get me wrong, but it looked better than it actually felt at the time. And the reason is because my wife and I were working in the business rather than working on the business. I went to work for myself so I didn't have to have a low-paying job, but then I gave myself low-paying jobs within my own company. And that really set me back for a bit. And it was depressing. It was bittersweet. It was depressing a little bit because we would go out and see all these amazing things, but what people didn't see off of Instagram behind the curtain was my wife and I working 10, 12 hours a day while our daughter's sitting in a corner on her tablet for hours and hours and hours and hours. She started to get very lonely. And my wife started to get depressed because she's seen what's happening to our daughter. And all this is going around like, this isn't what I had in mind. Like, I feel like I achieved the goal, but I didn't achieve the dream. And that's when it started to click. I was like, I need to go do something different. And I realized that if I'm to get Maddie out of appointment setting to where she doesn't have to do that anymore, she can come in and just be the creative design whenever she wants. She could spend time with our daughter, do all the homeschooling, but I could get her completely out of that position if I just replace her. I was like, duh, commission only salespeople. That's exactly what I did for door to door. Why don't I just do that here? So I did, and I went all in on that. And man, that's when things really started to take off. I was able to get my wife out of the process. Eventually, I was able to get myself out of the process because I wasn't on closing calls anymore, having a high-ticket closer. And then it just went 10 times faster after that. And we were able to enjoy ourselves.
Okay, what you said, that was good. It was a lot, but these are the ones that stood out to me. Being a CEO is all about leverage. I think that's super key because, to your point, you were so used to just doing the work all the time and production coming from you versus, man, this is not sustainable. I see my kid over here. She just on the screen 24/7. So that was a good one. And then I love this line. You said, I achieved the goal, but not achieved the dream. And I think that is super important to highlight because I think a lot of people, especially if you're like me coming from a background where like you don't have the most money, like, oh, making 6 figures, like that's the goal, but you don't understand like that's not really what you're trying to do. Like that's just a number. You know, it's not only making the 6 figures, but how do we maintain and sustain it? How do we make this effortless? How do we automate some of these processes and things of that nature? So I love how you said that because some people are probably like, oh, I'll just work 10 to 12 hours too. And now, not the same thing. All right. So let's keep going because I feel like this is a great story at this point. All right. So first off, and I got to ask it, I didn't want to interrupt your flow. When you say sold everything and put in backpacks, so y'all literally just got like huge backpacks and like a suitcase or two?
That's it. That it literally sold everything we had. We didn't even get a storage. This time around, we got a storage for this trip, but this first time we did it, we didn't even have a storage. We got rid of everything.
So no house, no car.
Not a thing. $700 in our pocket.
Oh man, that's scary. Okay, so now we're overseas. We're in Europe. We got the kid over here on the iPad. We're working our butts off, but we're still enjoying. Now you've replaced you and the wife. All right, now we got people running that part. So now fast forward to present day. How is I know you said like right now they're out. Somewhere we had kid number 2.
Yeah. Well, so we found out while we were in Venice. And it must have been the wine. I don't know.
The juice got you loose. Okay. All right. So now tell us. So now you've helped people with their sales because that's what you do. You're giving them the closers, which means you're having to train them. You're having to kind of not just, hey, here's your salesperson, but also how to use them, how to get them involved in your company the right way, and all those things. Tell us, what are 3 things that when you start working with an agency, you're seeing like automatically the 3 most common things that they need to fix with their mind in regards to this whole sales process?
Yes. Everybody thinks that their prospects and their leads are people that can buy their product. They're managing down rather than managing up. And here's what I mean by that. When you manage down, you're looking at people that aren't quite where you're at, and you're trying to lift them up. This can be prospects, or this can be salespeople or virtual assistants. But you're looking for people that are not as skilled as you, and maybe you can develop them, or the clients that are not anywhere near where you're at, but maybe you can turn them into a killer and help blow up their business. And the thing is that when you're managing down and your focus on prospects are people who can buy my product, or if I reach out to somebody on Facebook and I convert them and get them interested in doing a sales call with me, an enrollment call, then I converted that person into a lead, one lead. It's not leverage. When they shift their thinking and they start to think in terms of leverage and collapsing time, then everything changes and priorities change. Prospects are no longer people that can buy your thing. Prospects are people who are above you, maybe just a couple steps ahead of you, or maybe leagues ahead of you, and they've got the audience already. And they can promote you, and they can just give you floods of traffic and sales just by building that relationship with them. Managing up is also working with salespeople. If you think of your prospects, your salespeople, or your potential salespeople are your prospects. Not people that can buy your program, but A-level people and rock stars that can come on and run your company for you. That's your prospects.
All right, everyone thinks their prospects can buy your product, but those should be people who are above you that have an audience already, and your prospects are your A-level talent that can run your company.
Yes.
You got to break that down for us, because I've never heard this before, so I'm intrigued.
Okay. So imagine me in the beginning when my wife was grinding on appointment setting and I was grinding here and there on appointment setting, but mostly closing. Everybody I talked to, everybody I was building a relationship with, they weren't very far in their business. They were people that could look up to me where I was at that moment. And
Right.
whenever I reached out to somebody and had a conversation, started to build the relationship, my intent was to sell that person. This person can become a lead. This person can become a sale. However, if that's all that you do and that's all that you're focused on, that's all you'll ever be able to do. You're not going to move the needle in massive ways. And it wasn't until I shifted and I thought, how do I replace Maddie as the appointment setter? How do I find rock star appointment setters that are just as good or better than her? And then I spent all of my time reaching out and building relationships with those potential A players that can come on and set for me, and then eventually go in and finding closers that could replace me in that process. At that point, when I made that switch, I no longer prospected for potential sales for my company. Those are not the people I did my outreach for. I got to the point to where I have people for that. They'll do that for me, but I got to go find those people, and that's what has my attention right now.
Okay, smart. All right, so that's 2. Everyone thinks their prospects can buy your product, and then in reality, your prospects are your A-level talent, or should be your A-level talent that can run your company. Third thing, that this person has to make the mindset shift, because I'm working with Kyle. He said he get people to 7 figures. So what's that third most common thing that you see them struggling with when they start working with you that you got to help them?
Yes, they want to build their own river. They want to go in there and bring in the shovels, bring in the tools, and sit there and dig a ditch. Then they want to fill this ditch with water, and they're putting in all this effort and attention and energy into building a river of traffic from scratch and building this lead generation machine to where they're building it from the ground up. And at first it's super dry, and it's going to take all of your time and all of your resources. Where if you just drop that shovel and you look up and look around, you're going to see that there's raging rivers of traffic all around you. They already exist. They've already been built. Somebody already went and spent the hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads. Somebody already went and spent the years and years of organic marketing and advertising doing that, the content to where a couple pieces go viral, and then they're building a relationship with their audience over time. Somebody already did that for you. You don't need to do that. The rivers exist. All you got to do is take your bucket and dip into these other rivers. So leverage other people's audiences.
Okay. So they want to build their own river instead of leveraging other people's audiences. Okay, there we go. Now, let's move that bar forward. So, all right, I'm working with you. It's been, let's say, 6 months to a year. I'm really starting to get the feeling of how things are going. Name me 3 things that you see the successful people who listen and follow your directions are now, I don't want to say able to do. I'm going to say, name me 3 things that the people that get to the 7-figure mark that they actually did to get there.
The 3 things that they did to get to the 7-figure mark. Number 1,
I got my sales locked in, right? Because I got Kyle here. Kyle got my sales locked in. What are you seeing as the common trait that these people are doing? Like 3 of them.
Number 1, getting themselves out of the sales process, just like we were talking about before. That's got out of 3 things. This is the number 1 thing. Stop trying to sell. Stop lead generating. You can build a team for that. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he was telling me, I'm not ready for what you have yet. I'm not ready for setters. I'm not ready for all these other lead generation systems. I just don't have the bandwidth. And I told him, I'm like, okay, so what has your attention right now? Where are you putting all of that bandwidth? And he says, well, I spend about 2 hours a day doing prospecting and going into Facebook groups and reaching out to people, 2 hours a day doing that. So it's not that bad. I said, 2 hours a day? And I'm like, is that hard hours? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm hitting it hard. I'm like, okay. So if you're working 6 hours a day, hard hours, that's a third of your day. And if you're doing that every day of the week, that's a third of your week that you're robbing your company of the CEO. That your company does not have the CEO who's focused on high leverage tasks, on tasks that are worth $1,000 an hour, and you're over here working on tasks that are worth $10, $15 an hour. Like you got to get yourself out of that. So that's number 1 is fire yourself as the salesperson. Stop wearing so many hats. And you know what's perfect for this? Your question, the 3 things, is a book that I read. It's one of the best books I've ever picked up. It's called The CEO Only Does 3 Things. And the 3 things that a CEO does has to do with your people, your numbers, your metrics, and your vision. That's it. And if you're not doing it, if you're not focusing on those 3 things and you're doing other things, you are robbing your company of the CEO.
Oh my, that's crazy. Keep going.
Yeah, man. So the thing is if you start to look at this like a chessboard, you jump onto the customer service, or you're going and helping a client with something, and you're putting in your own time, or you're doing the sales, you are becoming the pieces on that chessboard, and you're not going to be able to play chess, right? Because your vision is 2D. You need to get up from a 4D perspective and be able to just crush it from that standpoint. Being the vision leader, and also understanding that you need to attract A players. The best people in the world, it's a lot of the times their success isn't even their making. My success is not something that I can take credit for. I got to give that credit to having a badass team. And that's what you got to do. You got to focus on finding that good team, on tracking the metrics, because metrics are like instruments. And when I say that, I compare it to an airplane. So imagine flying an airplane, and then all of a sudden you go into 0 visibility. You're in a storm, and you can't see a thing. And you don't know what's up, you don't know what's down, you don't know what direction you're going. You're going to crash that plane. This is where pilots have to rely on their instruments. As CEOs, as business owners, our instruments are the key performance indicators.
He said, number one. So if you want to get to $1 million, because he's helped people get there, he's saying common traits and habits that he's seen. You got to fire yourself as a salesperson, aka get out of the sales process. You have to focus on finding a good team, right? Your instruments in his example. And then you as the CEO only need to be focused on three things, and that's managing your people, checking your metrics to see that you're not falling off track or that you're staying on track, and then keeping the vision of the company moving forward.
That's it. Because A
Yeah.
players crave vision and they crave accountability. Here's the thing, guys, is the best people in the world, the best talent in the world, they're already employed. They already work for somebody. And the only way that you're going to get them is by having a stronger vision than the person that they're working for right now.
I love this. All right. So now, about how many people do you have on your current team?
It doesn't take a lot. I've got 2 closers, and under each one of them, between 4 to 6 setters. Kind of fluctuates, but that's all you need in order to hit $100,000 months. And I've helped several people hit $100,000 months within their first couple of months of working with me, because you don't need a lot. You don't need this huge, massive operation. You just need a couple killers, a couple rock stars that can go crush it.
So, okay, let me ask you this, because I know some people are thinking this. Okay, but Kyle, I get what you're saying. Everybody wants A players, but they're going to cost me a lot of money. So you got to tell them about that part, because you and I both know, to your point, if you're already a top person and you're working with this company making, depending on where you're in the world, let's just say 10 grand a month. What does that mean, Kyle? So you're telling me I got to pay 12 grand just to get them? Or what does all of that mean? Because to some people, they're going to say, I don't know if I have the funds for that, or I'm just now getting cushion. So now you're telling me take all my profit margin and then pay it out. Help them see the bigger picture.
The best salespeople in the world do not work for base pay. They work for commission only. And the reason that they do that, the reason that I did that for DirecTV, even though I had an offer for a corporate position where they would have paid me base pay and I turned it down, because I would have had to take a massive pay cut. When you're just sharing a piece of the pie, you make more as a salesperson. So that's how you attract salespeople, is the vision of being able to earn more because you're making a cut, you're making a percentage, as opposed to having a set pay. If somebody gives you a base pay, or if they just pay you an hourly wage, essentially they're telling you what you're worth. I don't want people to tell me what I'm worth, and the best salespeople in the world don't want people to tell them what they're worth. They want to be able just to go eat what they kill, eat what they hunt, and go crush it.
All right, so when you say A player, so we're talking marketing agency, what should we be looking for a range? Like, is this a U.S. person? Is this a Latin American person? Is this Philippines? Like, give us some ranges, because some people, I don't want them to get off this episode thinking like, man, this person's gonna be 20 grand, but maybe they're not. Maybe it's depending on where you're gonna have them, etc. So break that down for us if you can.
Yes, so they're in the most expensive countries in the world. That's where I find the best salespeople. I don't use virtual assistants as appointment setters. Everybody makes this mistake. They get virtual assistants for their setters. VAs make terrible setters. Now, they're great at admin. Admin work, virtual assistants will crush it. And I got to give it up to them for running my operations side and the admin. But the salespeople who hate admin, they have to be from the US, from Canada, or the UK, someplace from a English-speaking country, somebody that has a sales background, and they have chops. They know how to communicate. They have experience. And you don't have to pay them anything, because they don't get paid until they make sales. So it's 100% commission only. That's it. So what's cool about this is you can build out an entire infrastructure. You can build out an entire team without spending a dime. It's all profit sharing.
Okay, now let's go there. I like where we're trending. All right, so shout out to VAs. I just want y'all to be clear. He didn't say VAs are terrible. He just said that's not the best use of their skill set. So we ain't gonna even say how he just messed the whole game up, because we know what some of y'all like. Just get you a VA and sell. Y'all take that up with Kyle. I'm sure he got hands and he'll be ready to box y'all. Anyway, So USA, UK, Canada people, what can we look? Well, I guess there's not a range, because what would be a typical way you structure? I know it's eat what you kill, but is that like 5% of every deal you close as long as you stay with us? Is that 2.5%? Like, give us a range so that people can have that in their brains for like, okay, now I have a better idea
10%.
of whatever they close.
Yeah, and it has to be high ticket or mid ticket to high ticket. If you want good salespeople, your product has to be 3 to 5K for mid ticket, and then 15 to 50K for the high ticket.
That's good. Okay, 3 to 5K for mid. We're just gonna say 15K plus. Because to your point, y'all see he dropping the crumbs. He wants y'all to pick them up. In other words, if I'm gonna give you 10% of a 5K sale, we all know that's $500. Nobody's gonna want to close. Oh, I sold $100 course. That doesn't wake them up out the bed. That doesn't get them excited. So this really, what he's really saying without saying it is, before we even get to this part of the business, like your offers have to be dialed in. You have to know what you can and can't afford. Like you have to know, what's my revenue, what are all my expenses, what am I paying out every month? Because if I can't afford, it sounds good to be able to say, oh, I don't have to pay them a salary. Yeah, but if they go out there and crush it and they give you 30 sales at 5K each, let's do some math here. 30 times 500, you got to have 15 grand. And if you're not budgeting your money correctly, you're just happy that the dough is rolling in, and you spending it and doing this, doing that. So there are some other components not before you start this process, but that you should be keeping in mind as well, because hey, we can't just get the money and start blowing it. Nope. I have to set money aside, right? So that I have the ability to pay them whatever. They're going to want to be paid on time and all of those different things. So he's not directly saying it, but indirectly, this also means your operations need to be in place. How are we tracking the clients? Do you have the proper team? Because mind you, he's just talking about your sales team for your agency. We're not even talking about fulfilling it so that you can keep churn low, LTV, and all of these other things. So make sure that what he's saying, you are prepared for all of that as well, right? We want to be prepared for, if my guy brings in 10 clients this month, oh snap, can we fulfill on that? Are we already maxed out? Do I need to go hire a new person now that we got 10 new clients? Like all of those things need to be already dialed in or on the way before you get these salespeople in and rolling.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah, and as a finance guy, it's dangerous if you drop below 30% profitability. Like that's where it gets dangerous. So you got to keep those numbers, even if you're paying 10% to your salespeople. You got to still keep that profitability up and be making. Yeah, really, you want to shoot for 40%, and that's it. That's after paying your admin, your operations, your overhead, everything. Now the thing is what I have my clients do, because I have clients all the time that come up to me and they're like, "Yeah, I'm doing one-on-one coaching for $1,000 and they get me for 6 months." I'm like, no, shut that down. And I'm all about high impact, low fulfillment. How can we change lives and radically impact people with the least amount of work as humanly possible?
Right.
And that's your offer.
Yeah, I heard him say it. I don't know why y'all, just looking at us on the screen or just listening to the silence. That's the name of the game. And he doesn't mean it in the sense of like, because I know some of y'all gonna go, oh, just barely do nothing. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, what can we give the client that is of extreme value to them, but doesn't require that much of our personal time? Because what he'll also tell you is, can he find you a closure that I can sell a 20K offer? Yeah, but if it takes you 30 hours a week to fulfill it, you need to check the offer. We need to renegotiate what that looks like from a profitability standpoint, because you're not going to really get to enjoy it all because you stuck at home working 24/7. So again, this goes back to sales being a component of the whole business structure in regards to your operations, your fulfillment, your team. Do you have all the proper things in place? Because if not, I can tell you, because we've seen it, it doesn't matter if you make 100K if you spend 90 of it. And then we haven't even gotten into, oh, Kyle, you got to go into this part. How do these people react? Because to your point, all right, now they're making more money than they've ever made. Now, how do they feel about paying themselves?
This is a block that a lot of coaches and experts have. They have money block. For some reason, everybody says impact over income, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. And that's a huge philosophy of mine too. But you got to be okay with being abundant. God wants you to be abundant. You know, he wants his people to be blessed.
Here you go. Keep preaching. Keep going.
Yeah, because if God's people are blessed, then they can go bless others, and that just helps the kingdom. So you got to be okay with that, because God is abundant. He wants you to be as abundant too. And let's think about a locksmith. How much does a locksmith cost to have them come and unlock your car?
Like $150.
Yeah, and it takes them, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, he just comes, put something on it, and they go, bloop, and then he's done.
Yeah, but people buy that every day, all day long. Why? It's because it's not about the time or the effort that was put in. It's about avoiding the pain of damaging your car and sitting there messing with the lock for over an hour yourself, and you're locked out of your car and you're sitting there damaging your door and your paint because you don't know how to do it properly. It's about having high impact that people are willing to pay for, that's going to make a big difference in their lives and save them a lot of pain and heartache, but it doesn't have to take all your time.
See, now he started preaching, so y'all know we got to do it. So, okay, talk. Now we got to go there, because on our side, right, in handling the accounting, the taxes, the financial strategy, it's like sometimes we have to, I don't want to say argue, but like really challenge the owner, like, hey, you need to pay yourself more money. And they're like, well, I mean, I always wanted to, but what does that look like? I'm like, well, I mean, tell me more info. So, like, there's those mental blocks. And to your point, how can we give more if we don't make more? And I think a lot of people get caught up on, like, well, because we have a lot of clients say this, I just want to keep that money in the company, you know, to reinvest so that we can grow faster. I'm a believer of that, right? Like, yes, you're going to have to put money back in. But what I've also learned in doing this for almost 6 years now, and working with a ton of other agencies and business owners in general, you have to be able to enjoy this money for yourself. Because if not, my wife told me this a few months ago, I think it was. She was like, Cameron, what you don't want to do is get to the end of your life and yeah, you worked super hard and you changed all these people's lives, but you never got the chance to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And in Kyle's case, right, that's the traveling, that's the RV, that's getting able to go out and run up mountains and jump in lakes and do all the fun stuff. You have to have that balance. And I think to your point, we get in that grind of, like you said, about being top 7. Hey, I'm out here 24/7. You need something, let me know. We're out here. Versus it's almost counterintuitive, like, man, I'm working out of like the abundant mindset of like, it doesn't have to be hard in order for me to be successful. It doesn't have to kill me or my brain cells. I don't have to work a 12-hour day. Some days I'm making work a 6-hour day and I'm still making money and helping others and changing lives. And I think that's such a key struggle that we see on the number side, because they finally get somebody like Kyle and then they're like, man, I don't know what to do. Or can I go on vacation now? And I'm like, well, you can, but you're asking me that, which tells me there's a different problem. So we just went off on a tangent, but I think that was super important to highlight.
Yeah, man. And the thing is if you want to bless others, because we're all in here for legacy and impact, and if you can't bless yourself, how are you going to bless others?
Or as the Bible would say, you got to be first partaker. I can't talk to you about, oh, this is your dream life and this is what we want you, and I just be at home all the time. I never go anywhere. I never do anything. Like you said, my kids are just always in front of TV. Wife over here feeling ignored because we ain't do a date night. Like, you have to be. And there's a way, of course, when you haven't made 6 figures, that's a whole different thing. But once you cross that mark, we should be able to do some things and get some different exposure Yes, you're going to have to pay to play. Yes, you're going to have to pay to get in bigger circles and get in bigger rooms, but you always have to think of ROI. And that's what Kyle is trying to drill. I could have kept doing it. I know I'm the best at sales. Or I can get somebody that's either 90% as good as I was, or maybe 110% better. Will I have to pay them top dollar? Yeah. But they're going to bring me so much more. Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having a little less in the bank to be able to 10x my effort and give me back 20 hours a week. Like, that's where we have to switch our mentality to, especially when we have a young family, because all the people I know that have high schoolers, they're only young one time, and then they're going to get ready to leave. Then they're going to get their friends and they want to be out. And then once they go to college, it's different, So
Yeah, they get big fast. They get big fast. And the thing is, it's so much fun to be able to bless others. And, if you're cranking and you're okay with that abundance coming in, then your life is just going to be so much more fulfilling. So, definitely lean into that, guys. Don't be afraid to make money, because the biggest reason that you don't get to your goals or those big numbers is because you limit yourself in your thinking of what you can do in the first place. And then you have this limiting belief that it's the ceiling that you create in your own mind without even knowing it.
All right, we can keep going, but we're going to hit our rapid fire section and then we're going to close it out. So, rapid fire. If you could go back to your high school or college self and you had 30 seconds in the time machine, everything present day right to the second, what would you go back and tell high school or college Kyle?
I would say stop trying to figure it out on your own and find a mentor sooner. If you want to collapse time, then you learn from somebody else's failures. If you can learn from history and you can learn from other people that have already been through it, then you're just building on what they've already learned and what they've already built. And the longer you wait to get that mentor, the more you're going to be doing repetitive work and making the same mistakes that all could have been avoided. So finding that mentor is powerful in so many different ways. Number one is just knowing what to do within your company. How many of us feel overwhelmed because we get this information overload and we get this shiny object syndrome and we're chasing all these different things and we want to try all of these things, but we're not doing the things that are really moving the needle. So you have to get a mentor that can map it out for you. Because I'll tell you what, if you are trying to figure everything out and fail forward and learn just through failure, then it feels like you're trying to get momentum by pushing a boulder up the hill. And pushing a boulder up the hill is not efficient. I would rather ride a rocket. I want things to be happening. So if I have so many powerful things to implement, the only thing I got to do is implement them as fast as I can. Like, that's the place that I want to be operating in. And it's not just about the learning and the consultation that comes from it. It's also about the relationships and the network. Because if you want to level up your net worth, you got to level up your network. You got to get in with those high-level players. A lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm not going to spend 10K. I'll sell a 10K program or I'll sell a 25K program, but I'm not going to go buy one. Well, how are you going to sell it if you have limiting beliefs? If that's expensive to you, it's going to be expensive when you're asking your clients. Right? So you got to shift that mindset. It's an investment. It's not a cost. So it's not expensive at all. If I didn't spend, I was in two 25K masterminds at the same time. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have hit 2 Comma Club. I did that. I hit 2 Comma Club shortly after I was in those 2 masterminds. I really stretched myself to be in there. And a lot of it was what I learned, but a lot of it was the network. Yeah, I'm sitting there making friends, successful people know successful people, high ticket buyers are friends with high ticket buyers. It becomes easier after that.
More gold drop. All right. Name us 2 or 3 things that you would say are habits that contribute to your success that you do relatively consistently.
So 3 things aside from the CEO only does 3 things. outside of
Yeah.
that,
So this would be like personal, just like 3 good
too
habits
personal.
that you use to help you to be as great as you are.
Yes. So one is understanding energy. You have to understand energy. You have to understand your own energy and your own emotions. You have to become emotionally intelligent and be aware of where you live at every day. Do you live in anxiety? Do you live in depression? Do you live in fear? Do you live in hustle? I'm going to hustle my face off. What's Gary Vee say? Something like that. Hustle your face off. They're like, is that where you live? That's where you live. That's going to be your life. So focus on where you live emotionally and energetically, and make sure that it aligns with your values and your legacy that you want to build. And then control that. And if you can control your own energy, you can then begin to influence the energy of others for the good, for the good of everybody. So that's one. Controlling energy is we're all energy. That's all we are. We are dynamic balls of frequency, vibrations, and energy. And when you realize that, you realize what's underneath all the wiring and this physical illusion, then you can start to have it be more malleable for you. Okay. Next is relationships. Man, for a long time, I tried to do it the lone wolf way. I wanted to be a lone wolf. I wanted to save money. I wanted to not have a team. I wanted to not worry about networking. I don't need to network. I know how to sell, So I had this lone wolf mentality. And not only was that super ineffective, it was lonely. Very lonely. The path of the entrepreneur is one of the loneliest paths in the world in the beginning, if you're doing it wrong. But once you start to shift and you focus on relationships, that relationships are the vehicle to get you to where you want, not just financially, but also in fulfillment, then you start to spend more time on those relationships and you really start to cherish them. The last is strategy. Get really good at high-level strategy and being in control of your thought processes. Now, when I block out time on my calendar, this is another thing. You got time block. I know you said only 3, but this is the big one. Time block, brain dumping, and time blocking. Dump all of your thoughts out on a sheet of paper. Because if it's like a computer, and if you have too many tabs open on a computer, it goes slow and it doesn't work. Dump them onto a piece of paper, prioritize them, figure out what you can delegate, move some stuff over to your calendar. Some of them time blocks, some of them are recurring tasks. But you got to be intentional with your calendar. And then you're going to be able to be so much more effective. And some of the things that I time block is thought sessions, strategy sessions of me just to think. But when you're in that strategy session, you got to time yourself, because the mind is like herding stray cats. How are you going to herd stray cats? It's hard to do, and your mind could just wander. So there's two parts of your mind. There's the stray cats running all over the place. That's your creative mind. But then there's a logical, tactical piece of your mind. And if you can learn to use them in conjunction with each other, you let some free flow thought, time yourself, timer goes off, boom, now I'm going to go to analytical and logical implementation.
Yo, he going ham. He just going ham. All right, let's wrap it up because we keep going for another 30 minutes. All right, tell the people, man, I love Kyle. I love what he's saying. He's in alignment with, my goals and what I want, or he's going to help me get to the next stage of my business. Tell them the name again. Tell them the name of the company, where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, just the whole thing. This is your time.
Yeah, so I have a gift for you guys. Now, we talked the whole time about relationships and tapping into other people's work and tapping into other people's audiences and cross-promoting and collaboration. So what I have for you guys is a collaboration script. Because a lot of you guys are like, great, now I have the concept. Kyle gave me this great concept, but I don't know what to say. I don't know how to land those relationships. So I have a script for you, and it's not really a script. It's more like a framework because you want to be authentic. But I have this gift for you guys so you know exactly what to say and you know exactly what path to bring the conversation. I call it the zero resistance messenger script. And if you guys want access to that, it's my website. My website is for the script, and it's called scalesalesteams.com. scalesalesteams.com. Scale, like scaling your company. Scalesalesteams.com.
That's it. You're not gonna tell them how else they can reach you?
So that's the place, because once you get that script, there's a link that brings you to a messenger group where you can contact me directly, and I'll be able to coach you. So not only am I going to give you a piece of paper that has a bunch of cool stuff on it, I'm also going to personally direct you and show you how to leverage that inside that messenger group. You get access to that messenger group as soon as you get the script.
Oh, I was like, man, you're not gonna tell them connect with you on Facebook, LinkedIn? Okay, I got you. I see what you.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook too. Kyle Rodgers. You guys look me up. There's a lot of Kyle Rodgers though, so it might be easier to go to the website, get that script, join the messenger group, and you'll be able to contact me directly.
All right, spell it out for him one more time, because we don't want y'all to say, "Oh, I forgot it. Oh, I missed out." Spell it out for him again.
scalesalesteams.com.
All right, y'all. Y'all heard it here. All right, man. Well, Kyle, we thank you so much here. Let's recap the episode, because you said a ton of stuff in here. All right. Top 7 in the nation working for one company. Then he moved to another one. That was an ad agency and was doing sales for them. But he just was like, this is not what I envisioned for myself. So he has the love for travel. They sold everything, went to Europe, and started that journey. And then he started his own business. And then he started to realize important things like being a CEO is all about leverage. And he realized that he had achieved the goal, but not achieved the dream, because he was wearing himself out. Him and the wife, they were the power couple, but it was costing them too much. And then he started to replace himself with other people who could perform, if not as good, then even better. And instead of putting the focus on, hey, I want to go find a client that can pay me to do said thing, he put the focus on, I'm going to focus on going to find A players that can replace me and go do those things to get those sales. He also talked about the importance of building don't build your own river. Like, you can. That's going to take you some time and a lot of money and effort. Why do that when you can leverage other people's audiences and their knowledge so that you can skip some steps just by being in the right relationships? Fire yourself from as the salesperson, I thought was a great one. Make sure as the CEO, you only do 3 things, which is people, metrics, and vision. The best people work for commission, not base pay. Of course, you want them to be selling mid to high ticket, mid ticket 3 to 5K, high ticket 15K plus. And then I love the part he said at the end about good habits and things that he's built, which is being self-aware, focusing on relationships, and being strategic and intentional with the moves and things that you want to do. So, with all that being said, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on and blessing us with some knowledge. Guys, share this with somebody who you know that would really get value from this episode. So